Once upon a time, in a quaint village nestled between rolling hills and endless fields of golden wheat, lived a boy named Aaron and a girl named Elara. Their lives were simple, yet full of meaning, as they grew up in the same village, their paths crossing often but never truly intertwining until one fateful summer day. Aaron, with his deep brown eyes and messy hair that always seemed to catch the breeze, was a dreamer, constantly lost in thought about distant lands and adventures he longed to embark upon. Elara, on the other hand, was the embodiment of grace, with her soft laugh that echoed like a melody, and her eyes that held the colors of the sky after a storm, a mix of calm and fire. They had known each other for years, but it wasn't until that summer, when the village was celebrating its annual harvest festival, that they truly saw one another for the first time. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow over the fields, and the village square was alive with music and laughter. Aaron, who had always been too shy to approach Elara, finally gathered the courage to walk up to her as she stood by the fountain, her reflection shimmering in the water. "Would you like to dance?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly, but his eyes steady. And for a moment, time seemed to pause as Elara looked up at him, her smile soft but certain. "I would love to," she replied, her voice as gentle as the summer breeze. And with that, they stepped into the square, their hands tentatively finding each other's, their hearts beating in a rhythm neither had ever known before. As they danced, the world around them seemed to blur, and all that existed was the two of them, moving in sync, as if they had been waiting for this moment all their lives. That night, under the stars, they talked for hours, sharing dreams, fears, and stories they had never told anyone else. Aaron told her of his longing for adventure, of the places he wanted to see, and Elara, in turn, spoke of her love for the village, her roots deeply tied to the land and the people. They were different, yet somehow they fit together perfectly, like two halves of a whole. And by the end of the night, they knew that something had shifted between them, something deeper than friendship, something that neither of them had expected, but both of them embraced fully. Over the next few months, they spent nearly every moment they could together, exploring the fields, walking by the river, and dreaming of a future they couldn't quite define, but knew would somehow involve each other. Their love grew like the wildflowers that dotted the hillsides, strong and resilient, even in the face of the uncertainties that life threw their way. There were moments of doubt. Of course, Aaron's restless spirit often pulling him towards the horizon, while Elara's steadfast heart kept her grounded in the village. But each time they found their way back to each other, stronger than before, their love deepening with every shared glance, every whispered word, every silent understanding. It wasn't long before the whole village began to take notice of the bond between them, and though some whispered that their differences would eventually drive them apart, most saw what Aaron and Elara themselves had come to realize, that their love was not a fleeting thing, but something rare and enduring, something that would last through the changing seasons of life. As the years passed, their love became the stuff of legend in the village, the kind of love that people spoke of in hushed, reverent tones, the kind that inspired songs and stories for generations to come. They grew old together, side by side, their lives entwined like the vines that grew up the walls of the house they built together at the edge of the village. And though they never traveled to distant lands or embarked on grand adventures as Aaron had once dreamed, they found that the greatest adventure of all was the life they built together, full of laughter, love, and the quiet beauty of everyday moments shared with the one you love. Even in their final days, when the lines of time had etched themselves deep into their faces and their hands had grown frail, their love remained as strong as ever, a testament to the power of a connection that transcends time, distance, and even death. In the end, it wasn't the adventures that mattered, or the places they hadn't seen. It was the love they had shared, the life they had built, and the knowledge that, in each other, they had found their true home. And so, when Aaron finally passed away, peacefully in his sleep, Ilara followed not long after, as if her heart couldn't bear to be without him. They were buried side by side, under the old oak tree at the edge of the village, where they had spent so many afternoons together, watching the sunset over the fields. And though their bodies were laid to rest, their love lived on, in the hearts of those who knew them, in the stories that were told, and in the quiet beauty of the village they had called home.